So hello everyone, can you hear me? Am I audible everyone? Okay, thank you. You could just give me a few seconds. So welcome to the session. And in this session, we will discuss about the inflation. The chapter of inflation is very important because it is always in news. And in 2020 also there was one question on this chapter. Okay, this chapter is one of the very conceptual chapter, and we should understand the concepts as well as all the recent developments which are happening in this area, right? So let us start. So this is something about me, you already know. Now what will be the area of discussion? What will be the areas which we will discuss in the chapter of inflation? Let us see that first. So we will start with the basics, the meaning of inflation, the causes of inflation, which can be the demand pull or cost push inflation. Then we will discuss the various terms associated with the inflation, the stagflation, the Phillips curve, the various types of inflation, which also include headline core inflation, imported inflation, DNS allowance, cobweb phenomena, right? And simultaneously, we will discuss the relevant economic survey and associated previous year questions. So this is how we are going to cover this chapter, right? And in the next session, we will discuss the calculation of inflation, the base effect versus base year, CPI versus WPI, on which there was a question last in 2020, then producer price index, the impacts of inflation, the recent inflation dynamics, controlling inflation, and so on, right? So whenever we are studying the economy for the, especially for the prelims examination, we have to follow certain approach. So our approach should be, number one, glancing the previous year questions. Okay, previous year questions are the source of information which actually tell that what should be the approach for studying the particular chapter. Number two, the basic concept. Number three, the application of this concept. So, for example, if we discuss the meaning of inflation today, or we discuss stagflation, then whenever we are reading the newspaper, we should be able to interlink with the newspaper. Then revision, regular revision is very important. The daily revision and the weekly revision. And then MCQ practice. and the previous year question practice. So these are the 5 steps which we should follow for mastering the subject of economy, or for that matter, mastering any subject in the UPSC examination, right? So starting with the inflation. So what is inflation? Who will tell me? You can type in the chat box, what is the meaning of inflation? And I know that this is not a difficult question, but this session is going to be two-way session. That's why. So please type in the chat box whatever you know about the inflation. Okay. Anyways, so inflation in Hindi we call it महंगाई. इसको हम क्या बोलते हैं? महंगाई बोलते हैं. ठीक है. So inflation means general rise in the price of goods and services. गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज के प्राइसेस में एक जनरलाइज उसको हम इन्फ्लेशन बोलते हैं, राइट? नाउ दिस इज अ वेरी कॉमन डेफिनेशन, एवरीवन नोज कि इन्फ्लेशन का मतलब महंगाई होता है जहां पर प्राइस बढ़ते हैं, ठीक है? बट व्हाट इज द government definition, or what is the authentic definition of the inflation? We will go with that, right? So economic survey, which is a very authentic document for all the economic terms, it says inflation means upward movement, means there is increase in something in the general prices. Now what is the meaning of general? General means two things. One thing is it is across the commodities, across the goods and services, and number two, it is across the country or any particular state. General means across the goods and services and across the country or state. So that means if the prices of only and only milk are rising, that may not be leading to the inflation in the country. But if in general the goods and services, the prices of goods and services are rising in general, then it will be leading to, then it will be more of, it will be actual inflation. Okay, just a minute. Across the country and state, it means if the prices of milk, they are rising only in a village or only in a city, then it will not be inflation. It has to rise in general, maybe in an entire state or maybe entire country. So that is what is meaning of the general prices, right? And then goods and services. Now when we talk about upward movement, what is the meaning of upward movement? Upward means, upward movement, there has to be two characteristics in the upward movement. Number one, it has to be persistent and it has to be appreciable. Persistent means, suppose we talk about the prices of milk. So the prices of milk are rising. It is not that today they are rising, tomorrow they are falling, tomorrow the day next to tomorrow they are rising. So if they are so much fluctuating only in a week's time, then we don't call it persistent increase. Persistent has to be like over week, over month, over year. Means it should be clearly visible. Then appreciable. What is the meaning of appreciable? Appreciable means that it is visible. Means the consumer can feel that prices are rising. For example, if the prices of milk are rising only by 20 paisa or 10 paisa, the consumer may not feel the impact, right? So it has to be appreciable, something which can be felt by the people, right? So these are the basics of the inflation. This is the basic meaning of the inflation. Is it clear, everyone? Now let us move to the next thing, that is very important aspect, year on year inflation. Okay, what is the meaning of year on year inflation, right? So you will come across this term in newspapers and in other places year on year. So what is the meaning of year on year? So basically when we are saying the inflation means rise in the prices or rise in the general level of prices, right? So price में rise हो रहा है, but this rise will be as compared to something, means there will be some basis upon which this rise is happening. So suppose we talk about the milk prices. In 2019, in the month of October, the prices of the milk are, suppose, rupees 60 per kg per liter, right? Now, in 2020 October, this price rise to rupees 66 per kg. Now, this 66, if we take the 66 rupees as compared to the 60 rupees, there is 10% increase. That means there is 10% inflation. Now, this 10% is over the last year. This 10% inflation is over the last year. मतलब last year same period में, in the month of October only, the price of milk were 10% less. Now within 1 year this price have been increased by 10%. So this is called year on year, means we are comparing the prices over the corresponding period in the last year, right? So this inflation, the calculation of inflation, it happens in comparison to the prices which were there in the last year, right? So this is called year on year basis. So the example which I have given over here, this is for month. If we have compared the month of October, similarly there can be a comparison of week. So for example, the week number 40 of 2019, what is the price of milk, and week number 40 of 2020, what is the price of milk. We compare the prices between the 2 years and then the change in the price or increase in the price, that will help us calculate the inflation, right? So this is the meaning of year on year, right? So year on year means the rate of change of inflation. इन्फ्लेशन में चेंज होने का, यानी कि प्राइस राइज की हम बात कर रहे हैं. So right, so basically we will calculate the calculation of inflation. We will discuss how we calculate the inflation in the next class, right? So rate of change of inflation over the corresponding period, week or month or quarter. So for example, the week number 40 of 2019 versus week number 40 of 2020. How much is the change in price? If the change is 10%, then we call it 10% inflation. Similarly, month, the October month of 2019 versus the October month of 2020. How much is the rate of inflation? How much is the change of price? So that is called inflation. Similarly, quarter, the quarter 1 of 2019 and quarter 1 of 2020. So the quarter का मतलब क्या होता है? The month from January to March, right? And here again we compare the prices. So this is called year on year. So simply when we are comparing the prices of this year in the corresponding period of the last year, and we see the change in the price, that is called year on year basis. Is it clear, everyone? Now you will come across one more thing, that this inflation, it reduces the purchasing power of money. What is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of reducing the purchasing power of money? So we will discuss this separately also when we discuss the impact of the inflation, right? So in the next class we will have a detailed discussion on the adverse impact of the inflation, then we will discuss it further. But as of now, just understand that inflation or महंगाई, it leads to reduction in the purchasing power of the money, right? So how that happens? For example, there is Mr. A, and Mr. A has, say, 120 rupees in the pocket, and he goes and he buys the wheat in the market. Suppose the price of the wheat is 20 rupees per kg. So how much quantity he can buy? He can buy 120 rupees में 20 rupees per kg. That means 6 kg. So 120 rupees can buy 6 kg of wheat. Now there is inflation. अब inflation हो जाता है. Means the price of the wheat increase. Suppose the price of the wheat becomes 30 rupees per kg. That means 50% प्राइस बढ़ गए हैं, ठीक है, 20 की जगह पे 30 हो गए हैं, मतलब 50% बढ़ गए हैं, उसको प्राइस बढ़ गया है. नाउ द टोटल बजट इज सेम 120 रुपीज ओनली. नाउ मिस्टर ए, he can buy how much wheat in 120 rupees, 30 rupees per kg. That means 4 kg of wheat. So can you see one thing? Just because of inflation or just because of price rise from 20 rupees to 30 rupees, the quantity which was 6 kg is now only 4 kg. Means जो 6 kg buy कर सकता था Mr. A, now he is able to buy only 4 kg. So the purchasing power of 120 rupees has gone down from 6 kg to 4 kg. So this is called the adverse impact of inflation, or inflation leading to reduction in the purchasing power of the money. Is it clear, everyone? Please say yes or no in the chat box. Great. So now what are the different level of calculation of inflation, right? जब हम inflation calculate करेंगे, at what level should we calculate? So basically, what is inflation? Inflation deals with the price. Now this price, this is relevant for whom? ये किसके लिए relevant है? कंज्यूमर के लिए relevant हो सकता है, प्रोड्यूसर के लिए हो सकता है, और होलसेलर के लिए हो सकता है. So producer is producing the goods, supplying to the wholesaler, and then wholesaler is supplying to the consumer. So prices at the level of producer will be different, price at the level of wholesaler will be different, and price at the level of consumer will be different. Producer का जो price होगा वो cost होगी, and then he will add the transportation and the profit, and the price will be at the level of wholesaler. Now the wholesaler will add his profit and some cost, and then consumer will be getting the final product. So consumer level price will be the highest one, consumer level पे highest होगा. So these three level of prices are there, and we have to check the price rise or change in the price at 3 different level. कि कंज्यूमर के लेवल पे क्या चेंज हो रहा है, प्रोड्यूसर के लेवल पे क्या चेंज हो रहा है, और होलसेलर के लेवल पे क्या चेंज हो रहा है, right? So these are the 3 different level of calculation of the inflation, right? So this is the economic survey of last year, I mean, which was released in the February of this year. So this economic survey, you can see it is showing the prices at the 2 level, the consumer level and the wholesale level. Okay, by the way, we will discuss this consumer level price index and the wholesale price index in the next class, right? Where we will see what is the differences between two, how they are calculated and everything. As of now, you just understand that these are the 2 different level of calculation of inflation, and you can clearly see that this consumer price is having different trend and wholesale price is having different trend. ठीक है, क्योंकि दोनों के जो फैक्टर्स होते हैं वो दे आर डिफरेंट, फैक्टर्स व्हिच आर इंपैक्टिंग द प्राइसेस एट द कंज्यूमर लेवल एंड द होलसेल लेवल आर different, right? So this was the basics of the inflation, right? Now you are clear about that what is the meaning of inflation. It is an upward movement in the general level of prices, and it has to be appreciable, it has to be persistent. Then it is calculated year on year basis. It reduces the purchasing power of the money, and it can be calculated at the consumer level, wholesale level, or at the producer level, right? So this is the basic foundation of the concept. Now we will get into the further details. What are the different factors which lead to the inflation, the causes of inflation, ठीक है? So can you tell the causes of inflation? Please type in the chat box. What can be the causes? So here just start thinking. See, economy में आपको सोचना है ज्यादा है, ठीक है? You have to apply your mind, because in the exam hall the question will not be direct question, right? They will be applied question. This year also they ask various questions which I already told in the one of the class when I was analyzing the trend of economy 2020, that they are asking you conceptual questions, right? So inflation is प्राइस राइज, ठीक है? प्राइस राइज की हम बात करते हैं. अब प्राइस राइज क्यों हो सकता है, जस्ट वो सोचना है आपको, ठीक है? जस्ट थिंक एज ए लेमैन, व्हाई द प्राइसेस कैन राइज, प्राइस क्यों बढ़ सकता है? टेक 30 सेकंड एंड देन वी विल स्टार्ट. ओके, think and type in the chat box. I want you to think actually, because economy is all about concepts. Okay, so increase in demand, decrease in supply. Okay. Any other answer? See, the purpose is not to judge you. The purpose is that you actually think about it, right? So that we can have a meaningful discussion. So coming, let me tell you why the price will increase. So there can be three kind of reasons why the prices can rise. Either it can be because of increase in demand, which is called demand pull factors. See, prices, how they are calculated? They are calculated based upon the demand and the supply. Something which is having high demand but low supply has high price. For example, gold आप समझते हैं, सोना. Gold has high demand, but the supply is very, very limited. It is not found in abundance. So you see the prices of gold are very high. But something which is available in abundance and the demand is less, the prices are not there. For example, water it is available in abundance, even if everyone requires the water, but because it is available in abundance, therefore it does not have a price, or even if it has a price, the price is very low, right? So demand and supply, these are the two things which are actually deciding the price. So the price change will also depend upon the change in the demand or change in the supply. अगर डिमांड में चेंज होगा तो प्राइस में भी चेंज होगा, सप्लाई में चेंज होगा तो प्राइस में भी चेंज होगा. आर यू गेटिंग? सो वी हैव टू थिंक फ्रॉम टू पर्सपेक्टिव, द डिमांड एंड द सप्लाई, राइट? दो चीजों से इंपैक्ट पड़ने वाला है, राइट? सो व्हाट कैन बी द फैक्टर्स अबाउट डिमांड? डिमांड क्यों बढ़ सकती, डिमांड कैसे बढ़ सकती है? व्हाई द डिमांड फॉर द गुड्स कैन इंक्रीज, right? Demand, it can increase because of two things. Either the purchasing power of the people increases, purchasing power increase हो सकती है लोगों की, and why this can increase? Because they have more money, उनके पास ज्यादा पैसा है. So either it can be because of increase in the money supply. Money supply जब increase होती है तो आपकी डिमांड बढ़ती है. Is it clear everyone? Second, it can be because of some other factor, non-money factors also. Non-money factors भी हो सकते हैं. Can you think of what are the non-money factors? See, be engaged in the session. Don't think that you don't know anything. Just keep applying your mind, and you will get that you already know so many things, right? So keep applying your mind. Keep typing in the chat box. What are the other factors because of which the demand can increase? So demand can increase because of rise in the population. Population country की बढ़ रही है. India की population is increasing, so the demand of the goods is also increasing, right? Or what can be other factor? It can be because of change in the tastes and preferences of the people, right? So for example, earlier people were demanding more of cereals, right? Now they are demanding more of milk products and high nutrition product, right? So the demand of the high nutrition product, the milk product, is increasing, and the price is also increasing, right? Now we are assuming one thing here, that supply is not increasing suddenly, right? Demand बढ़ रही है लेकिन supply suddenly नहीं बढ़ रही है. अगर if the demand is increasing and supply is also increasing, then there will not be impact on both the price. तब price पे impact नहीं होगा, तब inflation नहीं होगा. But in this case we are assuming that the prices are increasing because the demand is increasing but supply is not increasing. ठीक है? And if we see practically also, अगर practically भी देखें हम लोग, तो supply do not increase suddenly. Supply comes from agriculture. Agriculture में से आती है, factories से आती है. So we cannot establish the factories overnight, or we cannot establish the, we cannot increase the agricultural production overnight. Are you getting? So demand can increase overnight, but supply cannot increase overnight. So this demand pull factor, they lead to they're the biggest reason. They're the biggest reason of increase in the prices. Is it clear, everyone? Please say yes or no. Okay, good. Now, what are the other factors apart from demand? The second factors are supply shock factors. तो या तो डिमांड बढ़ेगी, either the demand will increase or supply will decrease. Supply will decrease हो सकती है. And why the supply can decrease? There can be many factors. For example, there can be natural disaster. There can be floods. Because of the floods, the agricultural fields can be destroyed. If the agricultural fields are destroyed, then the production will come down and the prices of agricultural product will increase, right? So natural disaster, that is a natural calamity. Then there can be man-made factors also. Man-made factors भी हो सकते हैं. What are the man-made factors? For example, hoarding or black marketing. What is hoarding or black marketing? That some businessmen are stocking the material in their godowns, so that in the future, when the prices suddenly increase, they sell that product. So man-made factors can be there, the hoarding, the black marketing, etc. Right? Apart from that, what can be other factor? Other factor can be the poor infrastructure. For example, in the agriculture sector, we have shortage of storage. We have shortage, we have shortage of processing facilities, right? So because of that, there is high amount of wastage. उससे क्या होता है? High wastage होता है. And when there is high wastage, then definitely the supply will decrease, right? So for example, the perishable commodities, the vegetables, the fruits, if we don't store them in the cold store at the right time, automatically they will perish and their supply will be reduced. If the supply is reduced, then definitely it will impact the price, right? Are you getting? So this poor infrastructure can impact. Then poor agriculture productivity of India. So our agriculture productivity is poor since the time of Britishers, because the Britishers, they destroyed our agriculture productivity through various zamindari system and all. Their primary purpose was to extract the land revenue from the farmers, and the lack of investment into the agriculture, it is still persisting. Lack of technology. Even the present government, after the independence, they have brought various reforms. For example, this green revolution. But this green revolution has been partially successful. Only particular regions like Western Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, or some part of the Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. Only some regions, selected regions, have got the success. Rest of the India is still struggling with the poor agriculture productivity, right? So this poor agricultural productivity, it leads to the reduction in the supply. So these are the supply factors. Are you getting? Is it clear, everyone? Are you able to interlink? So we started with the demand and supply. Either the demand will increase or the supply will go down, and we can link. We can actually see the impact. We can see the individual things, how the demand and supply are impacted. Okay. Okay, good. Now, what can be the other factor? Or factor क्या हो सकता है? Apart from this, there is one more important aspect, that is the cost of the product. Cost of the product may, see, we are talking about the price. ठीक है? Price it is calculated either from the demand or supply. But apart from demand and supply, there is one more thing, that is the government taxes, which become part of the price, right? So the increase in the government taxes also impact the inflation, right? So for example, the GST, what is GST? Goods and services tax. So if the rate of GST increases, the consumer has to pay the more tax to the government. So the price at the consumer level will increase, right? So even the government taxes impact the rate of inflation, right? So this is the basic discussion and conceptual discussion. Now let us see in detail each of these things. ठीक है? तो सबसे पहले हम देखते हैं demand pull inflation. Let us understand that in detail. Why the demand increases, right? So demand increases first of all because of increase in the money supply. So now we will see why the money supply can increase. Okay. So friends, please apply your mind. Okay. Apply your mind. Then only you can get that economy is very, very easy, right? There will not be direct question from these classes or these books or anywhere. You have to apply your mind at every step why the things are happening the way they are happening. So demand pull inflation, we discussed that demand pull inflation is there, right? तो हम लोगों ने देखा कि demand pull inflation is possible because of two things: either there is increase in the money or there is there are other factors, right? Now we will see why the money can increase or what are the situations where the money can increase. ठीक है, तो हम उसकी बात करते हैं. So money can increase either because of personal income growth. Personal income में growth हो गई है, ठीक है. So for example, there is a government employee and there is a hike in the salary because of 7th pay commission, right? So every 10 years the government is increasing the salaries of the government employee, and because of the increase in the salary the personal income is growing for the government employees, or there can be other people also, not only the government employees, but I'm just giving you an example. Now second is high government expenditure. So the money can also come from the government expenditure. For example, the money is spending on the farmers through PM Kisan scheme, where the government is giving a fixed amount of money to the farmers. So this money is reaching in the pocket of the farmers. So this is another source of money flowing into the pockets of the consumer. Then the bank भी पैसा दे सकते हैं, right? So either the money is coming from the government or the employer, or it can be coming from the bank. Bank से पैसा आ सकता है, right? Now the banks, how they are giving? Earlier their rate of interest was high. जब rate of interest high होगा, then people will be taking the loan, yes or no? They will not be taking the loan, or they will be taking less loan. That means the money supply will be less. But if the rate of interest is low, अगर rate of interest कम होता है, then people will take the loan because now the rate of interest or the cost of loan is less, and when they take the loan, the money supply increases. Are you getting? So the decrease in the rate of interest on the loan by the bank or by the RBI, it also leads to the increase in the money supply. ठीक है, तो अभी हम as of now we are just looking into why the increase in money supply can happen. So money supply can come from the employer pocket, or can come from the government pocket, or it can come from the bank. ठीक है, तीन जगह से पैसा आ सकता है. Apart from that, the money can also come from the foreign country. ठीक है, so just think, what kind of discussion we are doing is we are just looking into कि पैसा कहां से आ सकता है. What are the different sources of money which can be there? So the next source can be the foreign country. Foreign country से भी पैसा आ सकता है. More foreign capital coming into India, right? Which is called FDI, foreign direct investment, or FPI, right? So because there is for example, there is a recession in the USA, or there is a mistrust over the China because of this corona and etc. Now investment is flowing into India. When more money come into the pockets of India, then money supply increases, right? Then high income from the export. This is also another source of money which can come. So for example, recently some of the medicines which were beneficial for the corona, they were in demand. So the money will come from their export. And last one is the high black money. Black money, what is the meaning of black money? Which is unaccounted money. And what is the meaning of unaccounted money? That means on which tax is not paid. जिस पर टैक्स पे नहीं किया गया है, right? That is called black money. ठीक है? So in India we have high amount of this kind of money, high amount of black money. Why? Because the tax laws are very weak in implementation. The compliance is very poor. People are not ready to pay the taxes, and then there are certain loopholes also. The real estate, the agriculture, where people are actually taking the undue advantage of the tax laws, right? So this is why the black money is high, and this keeps increasing. And if there is an increase in the black money in the pocket of people, then it will lead to increase in the money supply. And if there is increase in the money supply, it will lead to the demand increase. Right? So I hope this point is very much clear. So think organically. The point I want to make is इकोनॉमी में आपको ऑर्गेनिकली सोचना है. ऑर्गेनिकली मींस सिस्टमेटिकली सोचना है. यू हैव टू थिंक एज ए कॉमन लेमैन, एक सिटीजन की तरह सोचना है आपको. ठीक है? एंड देन यू कैन इजीली solve any type of question. Right? Now we have seen the money factors. Apart from the money factors, the other kind of factor which we have already seen is the high population growth. Because there is high population growth, definitely the demand for the resources will increase and change in the taste and preferences. For example, people earlier they were demanding the basic food, but now from the basic food they are moving to the nutritious food, the protein rich foods and their products, right? Nutritious products. So the demand of the nutritious products is increasing, right? So change in the taste and preferences can also increase in the demand and ultimately lead to the inflation. Is it clear so far? The demand pull inflation. Now cost push inflation. ठीक है? तो हम लोगों ने एक बात की थी सप्लाई शॉक इन्फ्लेशन, राइट? सप्लाई शॉक इन्फ्लेशन की हमने बात की थी. नाउ सप्लाई शॉक मींस decrease in the supply. Suppose, for example, there is loss to the sugarcane crop. Sugarcane की crop है, and there is loss because of monsoon failure. So what will be the impact of this? The sugar prices will rise because this is the raw material. This sugarcane is the raw material for the sugar industry. So the sugar prices will rise. If the sugar prices rise, it leads to the inflation, right? So basically, the supply shock, it leads to the increase in the cost of raw material cost for the industry. The sugarcane is the raw material for the sugar industry. So because of the supply shock, there is increase in the cost of raw material for the sugar industry, right? So this supply shock is actually leading to the cost push inflation. Supply कम होने की वजह से cost बढ़ रही है, right? That is why another alternative meaning which is given to the supply shock inflation is cost push inflation, right? Cost push inflation. So increase in the cost of input because of shortage of supply, right? So what are the different factors? Number one, shortage of factors of production. Shortage of factors of production. This is one thing which leads to the increase in the cost. जिससे कि cost हमारी increase होती है. और cost increase होती है तो price increase होता है. Price increase होता है तो inflation होता है. That is why this is called cost push inflation. ठीक है? तो factors of production. Now what is the meaning of factor of production? See friends, always try to understand each and every word in your economy. Economy में if you just go word by word, 90% of the things will be clear for you. ठीक है? So what is the meaning of factors of production? Factors of production, if you have seen my lecture on national income, which I have already given to you. Factors of production, it includes the labor, the land, machinery, and the money or capital. And then there is one more thing, that is entrepreneur, right? So these are the major factors of production, right? So when there is shortage of factors of production, shortage of labor, for example, during the corona time, because of lockdown, the labor moved from the cities to the villages, to their hometown, to their home villages. So there is shortage of labor in the cities, in the industrial towns. So if there is shortage of labor, then definitely the production will be impacted. Factories will not be working. Factories will not be working. The production will be coming down. If the production is coming down, then automatically the supply will decrease, right? Supply decrease होगा तो क्या होगा? It will lead to the increase in the cost of raw material, increase in the cost of wages. जो लेबर होगा, लेबर की वेजेस बढ़ जाएगी, ठीक है। सो द एग्जिस्टिंग लेबर दे विल डिमांड मोर वेजेस, राइट। सो इंक्रीज इन द वेज, and if the wage or the labor cost increase, then it lead to increase in the cost of production, and if the cost of production increase, then the price will also increase. Can you see the interlinkage? Everything is actually impacting. I discussed the example of corona lockdown. Then land is another thing, shortage of land, right? So for example, nowadays what is happening is there is lot of emphasis on the infrastructure building. Highways build हो रहे हैं, expressways, and because of that the agricultural land is reducing. So if the agricultural land will reduce, the production of agro based raw material will come down. For example, the sugar cane, agar if the land is utilized for the highway construction, the sugar cane which was being cultivated in that land, that will not longer be available. The cost of raw material for the sugar industry will increase, and it will increase the cost of production, ultimately leading to the inflation. Can you see? Like, I'm discussing practical things, I'm discussing the current application part, that you can actually, whenever you are writing what is the impact of land acquisition for the infrastructure building, you can also link that it actually leads to the inflation also. Whenever there is a question on how the labor migration from the cities to the villages during the corona lockdown will impact, then you can actually write the impact, that it will also lead to the inflation. Are you getting? So I am giving you the practical points, and you can actually think about it. You can interlink conceptually also, and if you see in this manner, then you can give the good answer to the main questions also. So my question is, my purpose is not only to tell you the concept, but also give the application part, so that in your mains examination or whenever you are doing the newspaper, then you can interlink the concept, because inflation is very, very application based concept. It is completely practical concept. In every news you can have some or the other impact of the inflation. ठीक है? Now third is machinery, or in the current context we call it technology. इसको हम technology बोल सकते हैं, ठीक है? So if we see technology, USA is having better technology. They are having advanced technology. In India, our technology is not that much advanced. We are still in the backward technology. If we see in industry, if we see in agriculture और infrastructure, हम कहीं भी देख लें, हमारी टेक्नोलॉजी कमजोर है अभी, ठीक है? So because of this poor technology, there is less production or less supply, and it also leads to the increase in the cost. Then money or capital can also impact the cost of production, ठीक है? Because अगर if the cost of money, what is the cost of money? Money की cost क्या होती है? What is the price of money? This is interest rate. If the cost of money or the interest rate it increases, अगर cost of money और interest rate increase होता है, then the cost of production of the company will increase, and it will lead to the cost push inflation, right? So even the money supply, the cost of money, the interest rate, it also impacts the inflation. Now there is a dilemma, classical dilemma. Can you identify the dilemma? Can you think of what is the dilemma? What is the contradiction which I have discussed? If you are listening this lecture carefully, then you can identify there is a contradiction in what I said in the last 20-30 minutes. मैंने कुछ बोला है जो contradictory हो गया आपस में. Can you identify what is that? someone, can you try? Okay, let me tell you. I told you in the last slide, मैंने यहाँ पे last slide में आपको बताया था, here I told you that if the rate of interest goes down, then money supply will increase and inflation will increase. So here I told you that if rate of inflation goes down, then inflation will increase, right? But in the next slide I told you, sorry, here I told you reverse. यहाँ पे मैंने आपको उल्टा बताया. मैं यहाँ पे बोला कि if the interest rate increase, the cost will increase and the cost push inflation will be there. Can you see the contradiction? So this is a dilemma. This is a dilemma which is faced by the policymakers also, the government also, that if they increase the rate of interest, then it will increase the cost of production. However, it will increase the money supply in the market also, right? So how to resolve this dilemma? So we will discuss this dilemma in the later part of the discussion in the upcoming lecture. And the crux of this dilemma is very simple, that the government has to maintain a balance. Government को balance maintain करना होगा, right? So change in the rate of interest, it has to be done very carefully. And the rate of interest, if they are reduced, it can increase the demand, it can increase the inflation, but at the same time it has also the adverse impact. ठीक है, तो ये dilemma है, इसके हम बारे में बाद में बात करेंगे कि how the government actually resolves this dilemma, but this is a dilemma or this is a contradiction. ठीक है, now so we have discussed the factors of production. ठीक है, in fact there is one more thing which I have discussed, that is entrepreneurship. This is another factor of production. ठीक है, entrepreneurship means ease of doing business. If in India it is easy to do the business, then it will be there will be high supply of products. But in India we face the difficulty in doing the business. It is difficult to register. It is difficult to register the business in India. It is difficult to get the electricity permit. It is difficult to get different kind of environmental clearances in India, and because of that the entrepreneurship is impacted, right? So this is also one of the factor, right? So the point I want to make is, if there is a question, what is the impact of poor ease of doing business in India? This is a possible question in the mains examination. So the answer, like one of the point will be, the adverse impact will be inflation. ठीक है, country में inflation होगा. Are you getting yes or no? So I am trying to interlink the mains application part also. You have to think organically. Now coming back, so shortage of supply, increase in cost of input. The first factor which we discussed was the shortage of factors of production, and in the factor of production, labor, land, machinery, money and capital, and the entrepreneurship. Now next is the industrial disputes. Industrial disputes can be there. ठीक है, strike हो सकती हैं. ठीक है, there can be industrial accident also because of poor safety or environmental issues. For example, there was gas leakage in the Visakhapatnam few months ago, right? There was this Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984. In 1970s there were various strikes in the railway and in industrial cities like Bombay. So these industrial disputes, because of these industrial disputes also, there can be shortage of supply, because industrial disputes से क्या होता है, factory बंद हो जाती है. If the factory is closed, then the supply will come down and the cost, the supply will come down and the inflation will increase. ठीक है? So this is another thing. Then natural calamity, which I already told you, the floods, अगर floods आ गई हैं, drought हो गया है, and this is more frequent nowadays because of this climate change. ठीक है? So if there is a question on what are the adverse impacts of climate change, you can always say that in the economy it can lead to the inflation. Then artificial scarcity, the black marketing hoarding, increase in exports, right? International factors भी आपके हो सकते हैं, right? So for example, there is trade war between the USA and China, or there is Syrian crisis. Because of this Syrian crisis, the oil prices sometimes they are going up or sometimes they are going down. Oil, which is a very important resource for India, for industry, for transportation, for agriculture, the prices of oil, they impact the prices of so many commodities, and the ultimate impact on the rate of inflation, the prices, right? So the international factors, they also impact the prices. And then increase in the taxes on the goods and services. So for example, goods and services tax, GST, which is the tax on the goods and services, if the GST on electronic product is increasing, then the cost of electronic product will increase for the customer, and vice versa, right? So even the government prices, the government taxes also impact the inflation. Then we have structural factors, which I have discussed. The poor infrastructure होगा तो क्या होगा, high logistic cost होगी, right? So in India we have poor road quality, ठीक है? The railway cost is very high. So because of that, the logistics cost, the cost of transportation and storage, etc., they are very high. In India we have average 15% to 17% logistic cost as compared to below 10% in case of the foreign countries. So because of this high logistics cost also, there is increase in the cost and there is increase in the price, leading to the inflation, right? So if there is a question, what is the impact of poor infrastructure in India, what is the impact of poor road in India, then one of the impact is the inflation, because it leads to the increase in the logistics cost. Are you enjoying this session? Please say yes or no. Can you see like how practical the economy is, how practical this, especially this chapter, you can interlink with so many things, right? Now high wastage, why? Because of poor storage, poor cold chain facilities in agriculture sector, or because of poor behavior of Indians. खाना है नहीं लेकिन फिर भी ऑर्डर तो करना है, ठीक है? पुअर हैबिट्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ वेस्टेज इन मैरिज में वेस्टेज बहुत होती है. Otherwise also there are various other factors, right? So all these are the factors of causes of inflation, right? So these were the basic causes why the inflation happens, the reasons behind the inflation. Now the question, the previous year question, okay? So read this question carefully and then we will discuss. So you have 1 minute and your time starts. Solve this question and give your answer in the chat box. Read this question carefully and then we will discuss. So you have 1 minute and your time starts. Solve this question. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. So based on the speed of inflation, we can divide into the creeping inflation. What is the meaning of creeping inflation? Creeping means regna, right? So when the rate of inflation is between 2% to 3%, this is called creeping inflation. This is the lowest level of inflation and this is desirable. इसको desirable बोलते हैं. Means this inflation is required. This is having the positive impact. Now you can say, sir, how the inflation can be positive, how it can be having the positive impact. So if we see, inflation means the price rise, right? Price rise means if we see from the perspective of businessman or the producer, their profit will increase because now they will be getting better prices for their product, right? If their profit will increase, they will invest the money in the business further. That will increase in the production. उससे क्या होगी? Production or supply increase होगी. If the supply increases or the production increases, it will require more labor. If more labor is required, that means new jobs will be created. नई job create होंगी. If the new jobs are created, it will lead to increase in the employment, increase in the per capita income of the people. लोगों की income बढ़ेगी. And then further, they will be, when they have more income, they will demand more goods. वो more demand करेंगे, and then again inflation and then price rise. So it will be virtuous cycle. इसको हम बोलते हैं virtuous cycle of growth. ठीक है? जब production बढ़ेगी तो एक impact और भी होगा. If the production is increasing, that means the GDP is increasing, because GDP increase is nothing but the increase in the total production of the country. GDP increase का मतलब क्या हो गया? GDP increase means there is increase in the economic growth. Economic growth increase हो रही है, right? And if there is production, the government will also get the taxes. Government को taxes भी मिलेंगे. Are you getting? The government is benefited, the country is benefited, the jobs are being created, everything is happening. So everything is beneficial, right? So this basic level of inflation, the minimum level of inflation is required for the healthy economy, right? So if there is a question, what is the desired level of inflation? The desired level of inflation is, if we see in the context of India, this is approximately 4%. इंडिया के context में ये 4% है, जिसको हम nominal anchor भी बोलते हैं. ठीक है? So in India, the inflation should not be below 2% and it should not be above 6%. If it is below 2% or above 6%, then the government or the RBI, they have to intervene. उनको intervention करना पड़ता है. Are you getting? So this is called creeping inflation and this is desirable. This must be there in the economy, right? So if there is a question on whether inflation is good or bad, what will be your answer? आपका आंसर क्या होगा? If there is a question in your interview or somewhere someone asks you, sir, inflation is a good or bad for the economy? So the simple answer will be that if it is up to a desirable level, that is up to 4%, then it is good. उतना जरूरी है. But if it is more than 6% or it is below 2%, then it is not good. ठीक है? तो we try to keep it between 2% to 6%, जिसको हम बोलते हैं range, जिसको हम बोलते हैं range. ठीक है? और nominal anchor. Is it clear, everyone? Now, walking or trotting inflation, Walking or trotting inflation is the next speed, that is between 3% to 5%. ठीक है. Then running inflation is a danger of sign. ये warning देता है to the government, to the other agencies, to the people that now your inflation is high. What is the adverse impact of high inflation? That it will reduce the purchasing power of the money, right? Earlier the people were able to buy more amount of goods, but now they will be buying less goods, so there will be less demand. If there is less demand, then definitely the production will have to come down. The production will come down, it will have again the reverse impact. The jobs will be reduced, the income of the people will be reduced. If the income of the people are reduced, they will reduce the demand, and again it will have vicious cycle. इसको vicious cycle बन जाएगा ये. So it will be having very very adverse impact. It will drastically impact the country in an adverse manner. So this is called walking or trotting inflation and the running inflation. And the last one is the hyperinflation or runaway inflation or galloping inflation. मतलब बहुत तेजी से inflation बढ़ रहा है, more than 15% or so. That is like very dangerous inflation. The country will fall down. Country fall down हो जाएगी. There will be crisis in the country because the prices are rising, and the people are not able to buy anything. They don't have the purchasing power. ठीक है? So this is the last way. So let us quickly review creeping inflation, walking inflation, running inflation, and hyperinflation. So this is the inflation based upon the speed. So you can read it quickly, take 1 minute and read it quickly. Okay? Take 1 minute and read this slide quickly. So all that I have given in the study material, right? We will upload the study material in your dashboard, and you can actually see and read all of this concept, all of these things there. Okay? Letters are not clear. Please see, I have already shared the screen also, na? I have shared the screen also. You can just switch the screen, like you can just switch the another screen. Like you can see there are two different screens. One screen from where the camera is coming, and another screen from where the screen is, this computer screen is coming. Is it clear, everyone? Any doubts so far? Yeah. So I hope you have covered this and you have read this. We have already discussed in much detail. Now let us see the question. Please take 30 seconds and give your answer. Very simple question. And I know that I have not discussed various terms so far, but still you can give the answer. And then we will discuss these terms also. The answer is B for Bombay. Very simple question. Economic growth. We have already discussed. Economic growth means basically increase in the production of the goods and services, right? It is coupled with the inflation. Okay. So the basic level of inflation, the minimum level of inflation is required, and this is also the previous year question, right? So you can see that the fundamental questions are coming in the exam, right? The basic questions are coming in the exam, right? Now the next category is the inflation based on the volatility. Based on volatility or fluctuation in the prices. कि fluctuation कितना होता है, ठीक है? So one is, the first is headline inflation. Headline किस चीज की होती है? न्यूज़पेपर की होती है. So when there is increase in the prices, there are news in the newspaper. That is why this term is called headline inflation. This is also called as total inflation. इसको हम total inflation भी बोलते हैं. Because why this total? Because it considers all items. इसमें सारी आइटम कवर होती हैं. There is no differentiation of the item. ठीक है, इसको headline inflation बोलते हैं. ठीक है. In India, what is the meaning of like how this headline inflation is measured? So earlier, पहले we used to calculate this only on the wholesale level. ठीक है, तो I told you that we can calculate the inflation at three level: consumer level, wholesale level, and the producer level. So earlier we used to calculate only at the wholesale level, and for that we used to calculate wholesale price index. But now we also calculate at the consumer level through CPI, consumer price index. What is price index? What is consumer price index? We will discuss in the next lecture. ठीक है, उसका हम separate discussion करेंगे. But as of now, you just understand that this headline inflation, this is a total inflation. What is the meaning of total inflation? Means we are calculating all the item. ठीक है, and here we are calculating both at the wholesale level and at the consumer level. Earlier it was calculated only at the wholesale level, not at the consumer level. ठीक है, so now it has all the item. Coming to all the item, what is the meaning of all item? Basically, that the item can be of two type. Those item whose prices are highly volatile. Can you name the items? जिनके बहुत ज्यादा volatile होते हैं, means बहुत ज्यादा fluctuating prices होते हैं. Can you think of those items? Example: food. Food item can have the high fluctuation. If there is a monsoon, the production goes down, the price of onion increases. Similarly, fuel, the petroleum, if there is a crisis in the world, the prices suddenly increase or suddenly go down if there is a good thing. So the food and the fuel, food and the energy, these are the two items which are highly volatile. ठीक है? And then there are other items or other commodities where the price is comparatively less volatile. जहां पर प्राइस जो है वो आपका लेस वोलेटाइल है. वोलेटाइल तो वहां पर भी है, लेकिन इतना वोलेटाइल नहीं है, बहुत ज्यादा वोलेटाइल नहीं है. Are you getting? Volatility is there, but the volatility is comparatively less, right? So in this headline inflation, we are having both the item, the highly volatile and the less volatile. But the government want to have a control over the inflation because high level of inflation is not good for the country. So the government want to calculate the headline inflation, the inflation in the volatile commodity and the non-volatile commodity separately. दोनों को separate करना चाहते हैं. Therefore, they want to calculate the core inflation. इसीलिए core inflation की जरूरत पड़ती है. So in the core inflation, what we are doing, we are calculating the headline inflation, the total inflation, and then we are eliminating the impact of volatile commodities. That means the food and the energy products. Food और energy products की जो calculation है और जो उनका जो inflation है वो हम यहाँ पर calculate नहीं करते हैं, right? So the core inflation actually indicates the long-term trend. It actually indicates the long-term trend of inflation, and accordingly the government can take the suitable step because this is a long-term trend. If the long-term trend is increasing, then the government can take the step to decrease and vice versa, right? So core inflation, why we calculate the core inflation? Because we want to have the accurate policy, right? So headline inflation and core inflation, you can understand the difference. Is it clear, everyone? Why headline inflation, why core inflation, what is the difference and how they are used in the policy making? Okay, good. Now, so quickly review this headline inflation, right? This is also called as top line inflation. There is not adjusted seasonality, and then we have core inflation, where the energy and the food items are excluded, right? The products have the largest price changes they taken out. Now you can see this economic survey. So I promised you that I will be discussing the economic survey, the relevant current concept, and the previous year question simultaneously. Okay, so we are discussing the previous year question, and now see this economic survey part. Economic survey part को देखिए. So you can see headline in the black. So headline inflation is this. ये headline inflation है. Then you can see core inflation, इसको नॉन फूड और नॉन फ्यूल इन्फ्लेशन भी बोलते हैं, ठीक है. सो यू कैन सी कोर इन्फ्लेशन इज दिस. सो वन थिंग यू कैन सी इज दैट कोर इन्फ्लेशन इज कंपैरेटिवली मोर स्टेबल, राइट? एंड फूड इन्फ्लेशन, जो फूड इन्फ्लेशन होता है, दिस इज हाईली फ्लक्चुएटिंग. यू कैन सी, आई मीन, at such a high and at such a low level, and again at the high level. There is so much fluctuation in the food inflation. There is so much fluctuation in the food prices, and this is the data between February 12 and December 19, the data of approximately 8 years of duration. तकरीबन 8 साल की duration का ये data है हमारा, ठीक है. So headline inflation, core inflation, you can see from this level. Now this is the question, practice question. Please take your time and solve this question, understand this question, and then we will discuss this. Okay. Okay, good. So now let us quickly see the question. Consider the following two statement. Number one, headline. Okay, can you hear me? Hello? Okay, so consider the following statement. Number one, headline inflation measures the price inflation arising due to all types of commodities in the economy. So this statement is correct because headline means total inflation. Core inflation is measures the headline inflation excluding the volatile component, that is the food and the fuel items. So this is also the correct statement. So we have to select the correct statement. The answer is both 1 and 2, right? So answer is both 1 and 2. Answer is option C. Question is very simple, direct question, right? Now we have already seen the inflation based upon the speed, the creeping inflation, running inflation, and other kind of inflation. Based on volatility, we have seen headline and the core inflation. Based on the government intervention. So based on the government intervention, it can be two kind of inflation: suppressed, and then we can have open inflation. What is the meaning of suppressed inflation? For example, we talk about the petrol prices. Suppose the price of the petrol is 100 rupees per liter, but the government is also providing the subsidy in the petroleum products, in the petroleum prices. So because of subsidy, the prices of these petroleum products are decreased by say 30 rupees per liter. So the ultimate price of the petroleum product is 70 rupees per liter. So because of the subsidy or because of the government intervention, the prices are actually low. The price actually comes down. So the inflation is suppressed or the prices are suppressed because of the government intervention. So this is called suppressed inflation. Suppressed inflation. So this is applicable only in few areas, not in all the areas. And open inflation means other than the suppressed inflation, that is the normal level of inflation, that is called open inflation. Okay. Based on the causes, we have already seen based upon the demand, cost, and so on. We have already seen this, right? So that now we have already seen the different types of inflation. Now let us come and let us discuss the various terms associated with the inflation. Inflation से संबंधित बाकी terms क्या होते हैं, important terms क्या होते हैं, ठीक है? So if we see this diagram, year on year inflation हम बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? So comparison of rate of change over a period of time. 0% means there is no price change, कोई price change नहीं है, it means there is no inflation, ठीक है? If the prices are rising, then it is inflation. अगर prices rise होते हैं तो ये inflation है, means there is an increase in the price, ठीक है? तो इसको हम बोलते हैं inflation, right? But when there is inflation but the rate of price rise is coming down, for example, here the rate of inflation is 1%, here the rate of inflation is 2%, here rate of inflation is 5%, but now this rate of inflation is coming down. It is coming down to 3%, 2%, 1%, but still there is inflation. Inflation to hai. If you see this term, disinflation means there is inflation. Inflation to wahan par hai, lekin it is coming down. This means it is coming down. The rate of inflation is coming down. This is called disinflation. It means if you are running a car, agar aap car run kar rahe ho, theek hai, if this is the car, so my artwork is very poor, let me try and make the car. Okay, अच्छी कार बन गई है. So this is the car and this is moving, right, at the speed of 80 kilometer per hour, ठीक है? Now this is moving, right? So inflation है यहाँ पे, Now this slowdown, the rate of speed or the speed of the car, it slows down. Slow down, okay? It is now running at very poor speed because of some issues, because of the difficult terrain, hilly area, और rain हो रहा है, but still it is moving. Still it is moving. ये move कर रहा है, ठीक है? Means there is inflation, but the speed is slow. ठीक है? तो यहां पर disinflation, इसको बोलेंगे disinflation. If we compare with the situation, okay, sorry. Yeah. So the car is moving, but at a slow speed, right? So similarly here the prices are rising. Price अभी भी rise हो रहे हैं, price अभी भी बढ़ रहे हैं, लेकिन rate of rise is less. The speed is less. So this is called disinflation. ठीक है? Then comes the third stage, that is deflation. Then comes the third stage, that is deflation. What is deflation? Deflation is now the prices are coming down. Prices are not increasing now. Now the prices are coming down. It means if we see in the context of car, अगर हम कार की स्पीड से देखें, now the car is आ रही है. It is now moving back, right? So deflation is there is no inflation. अब कोई inflation नहीं है. Means the prices are actually not rising. The prices are coming down. Prices down आ रहे हैं as compared to the last year. हम year on year की बात करते हैं ना, we are doing year on year comparison ना. So year on year comparison में the prices are actually now less. Earlier it used to be 100 rupees, now it is 90 rupees or 80 rupees, right? So can you understand the difference between inflation, disinflation and the deflation? Is it clear? Please say yes or no. Okay, good. So let us quickly see now deflation, reflation, stagflation, disinflation, Phillips curve, Miser index. All of these we will be discussing going forward. ठीक है? So deflation, what is deflation? It is opposite to that of inflation. ये inflation के opposite होता है. ठीक है? Because here what is happening is in the inflation में क्या होता है? The prices are rising. But in case of deflation, the prices are actually in the negative domain. ठीक है? So rate of change of price is negative. यहाँ पे negative हो रहे हैं price. ठीक है? Fall है यहाँ पे. This is fall in the general level of prices. The effect are also opposite, right? So in case of inflation, the causes of inflation were high demand, low supply. But in case of deflation, it will be just opposite. Means low demand, high demand की जगह पे low demand हो गया, and low supply की जगह पे high supply हो गया. Can you see? So it is completely opposite. ये completely opposite है आपका. ठीक है? Now, so you can see the causes of deflation. डिफ्लेशन क्यों हो सकता है, ठीक है, व्हाई द डिफ्लेशन कैन हैपन. सो आइदर इट कैन बी बिकॉज ऑफ डिक्रीज इन द डिमांड, डिमांड डिक्रीज होने से. और डिमांड डिक्रीज क्यों होगी, डिमांड कैन डिक्रीज बिकॉज ऑफ ग्लोबल रिसेशन. ग्लोबल रिसेशन हो गया है, देयर इज नो डिमांड इन द ग्लोबल मार्केट, एक्सपोर्ट्स हैज कम डाउन, ठीक है, फॉरेन मनी इज नॉट कमिंग, एफडीआई इज नॉट कमिंग, ठीक है. फिस्कल ऑस्टेरिटी, व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ फिस्कल ऑस्टेरिटी, सॉरी, fiscal austerity means the government is actually reducing the expenses, the government is saving the money, right? The government is reducing the expenses on the construction projects, it is reducing the the salaries of the employees, the DNS allowances of the employees. The thing which happened during the corona time, corona के time पे जो हुआ था, क्या हुआ था, the government actually reduced the spending on unnecessary thing. Then decline in the confidence in the economy and fall in the money supply. Fall in the money supply, it can happen because of various reasons, which the just opposite of what we discussed in the inflation, ठीक है, उसका उल्टा हो जाएगा. Then there can be lower cost of production. Cost of production भी कम हो सकती है, which is a positive thing. ये अच्छी बात है, ठीक है. So if there is a deflation because of this, then it is a good thing. Why the low cost of production? It can be because of improved technology. For example, we are talking about the industrial revolution 4.0, and in the industrial revolution 4.0 we will be applying artificial intelligence, the internet of things, right, and big data, and also many other things. Because of that, there will be high productivity, better production, better quality of production, better quality of product. Then appreciation, falling import prices. So because of rupee appreciation, the import prices are falling, and the imported goods like petrol or diesel, their prices are coming down, right? So that is also one of the reason, right? Next is, what are the adverse effects of the deflation? Deflation क्या अच्छी बात है? If we see what happens, number one, what is happening is oversupply of goods and services. The price is coming down, ठीक है. तो deflation का मतलब lower prices, simply, ठीक है. What is the meaning of deflation? The lower prices, the negative rate of inflation. This is deflation, right? So because of lower prices, the companies will be having low profit. उनके profit कम हो जाएंगे. They will be having a smaller profit, right? Because the price of their product will decrease. Because of the smaller profit, their production will come down, because they will not have the money to invest into the further production. The production will come down. If the production comes down, there will be no new hiring and there will be layoff. ठीक है, jobs कम हो जाएंगी आपकी. ठीक है, the thing which happened in the corona time. कोरोना के टाइम पे क्या हुआ? Jobs, आपकी production आपकी कम हो गई. ठीक है, increased unemployment. Employment बढ़ेगा because there is unemployment. So the per capita income of the people, लोगों की पैसा, if the per capita income is reduced, then it will impact the spending. अगर spending कम हो जाएगा, again the demand will further decrease. Demand will further decrease, and again, if the demand is increased but supply is already there, again the prices will come down. So this cycle will continue. This cycle will continue. This is called downward spiral of deflation, the vicious cycle of the deflation, right? Now, so we have seen inflation, we have seen deflation, and third is disinflation, and there is one more term which I want to introduce here, that is reflation. उसको बोलते हैं reflation. So this is the 0% rate of interest, or zero rate of inflation. Here it is deflation. Now from deflation, when it rises closer to the zero, that means earlier it was -5%, now -4%, and so on. So this is called reflation. इसको हम बोलते हैं reflation. Means still the rate of inflation is negative, but it is going towards the positive, ये बढ़ रहा है. And why is this happen? Why will this happen? Because of the government effort. Government effort करेगा, because the government will not let the economy be in the deflation. Government economy को deflation में नहीं छोड़ सकता, because that will be having various adverse impact which we have seen. The government cannot leave the economy in the deflation, because that will create the vicious cycle or the downward spiral. Therefore, the government will take some effort. Government will introduce the money into the market, right? So that people start taking the loan, they start buying the product, the money supply increases and the production increases, right? So government will intervene either through RBI or through the various spending. So central government या RBI or both of them or any one of them, they will intervene, and that is how the reflation will start. Okay, so this is another term associated with the inflation, the reflation, right? So you can see reflation. What is reflation? This is deliberate action of the government to increase the rate of inflation to stimulate the economy. Economy को stimulate करनी है, ठीक है? It is usually done to redeem the economy from deflationary situation. जब economy deflation में होती है, उस समय किया जाता है, ठीक है? So reflation, you can see this part is the reflation, right? So we have seen inflation, deflation, deflation, reflation, disinflation. This is, you know, basically slow rate of inflation. The rate of inflation उसको हम बोलते हैं disinflation. यानी कि inflation तो है लेकिन कम है. It is lower as compared to the earlier time, right? So for example, earlier it was 6%, now it is 5%. So this will be disinflation, right? We have already seen, right? So disinflation means the price level is increasing up. Now please be careful. Just read the term disinflation. यानी कि यहाँ पर inflation है, means prices are rising. Here there is no word like inflation. यहाँ पे word inflation है, यहाँ पे deflation है. तो यहाँ पर prices will come down. ठीक है? तो for your clarity, you can just identify that disinflation means inflation तो है लेकिन कम है. और de-inflation means inflation है ही नहीं, price level is actually going down. यहाँ पर price level is actually going up. So this differentiation you have to know very clearly. In case of disinflation, there is increasing price level. In case of deflation, the price level is coming down. Okay. Now these are some of the differences. You can go through yourself, right? So quickly see here. Deflation means the prices will go down. Disinflation means the inflation rate is actually moderating. Inflation rate कम हो रहा है, ठीक है? Sign, you can go through this later on. I will upload the slide, ठीक है? I have already discussed each one of these things, and the only point of giving here is for your more conceptual clarity. But this is not that much important from the exam perspective, right? Now you can just go through this slide, the starting three terms. ठीक है, just go through this slide very carefully. Take 1 minute and read it carefully. I hope the things are clear. Now, question. I always try to bring the previous year question so that you can see the relevance of our discussion. हमारा discussion कितना relevant है, ठीक है? We are directly hitting the question of the examination. Okay. So take 30 seconds or 1 minute, read it carefully and then give the answer. Don't be in hurry. जल्दी करने की जरूरत नहीं है, ठीक है? Please share your answer in the chat box. Okay, so let us quickly read the question. Which of the following statement is an appropriate description of deflation? Deflation का appropriate description क्या है? Number one, it is a sudden fall in the value of currency against other currency. This is not true. It is a recession in both the financial and the real estate sector. No. It is a persistence in the general level of price level of the goods and services. Okay, this can be one of the option, but we are not marking it right now. Rate of inflation over a period of time. Fall in the rate of inflation means inflation तो है लेकिन कम हो रहा है. So now option C and option D, which one is the right answer? So option C is fall in the prices, right? So this is deflation. And option D says fall in the rate of inflation means the inflation is still there. The inflation is still there. Okay. Inflation is still there. So that means D, disinflation. So answer is option C. Answer is option C, not the option D. Okay. Answer is option C. Right. So answer is option C. So after that we will discuss stagflation in the next class. All these things we will discuss in the next class. Okay. So if you have any doubt, anything from this class, please ask me. Otherwise in the next class we will discuss this stagflation and we will discuss rest of the concept. Okay. We will discuss so many things in the next class. As of now, for today's class, we have discussed enough.